everyone, and welcome to this video on the new moon in Cancer that happens on the 20th of July 2020, which is tomorrow. The reason I have taken so long to make this video, I usually make them about a week in advance, is that I have really dreaded this new moon in Cancer. It opposes Saturn, so it's an energy that is going to force all of us to look at relationships, self-care, how you nurture other people, family relationships, basically all of the things that I don't enjoy. And with Saturn opposing the new moon, it's going to really challenge you in the sense of, okay, these are your limitations and how can you work with those, face them and deal with them, rather than kind of brushing things under the carpet and going on like everything's hunky-dory. So just a content warning here. I may talk about other people in this video who I feel have done me wrong. I may be negative. If that's the kind of thing that triggers you, and this isn't going to be the video for you, because I am not living for this new moon in Cancer. As far as I'm concerned, it brings up all of the unpleasant things that I really don't want to spend my time looking at, and it's going to force me to look at some of the stuff in my life, and I'm going to look at that. So it happened at 6:32 in the evening, and that's based on London time, so take the time difference into account if you're elsewhere. But as I always say, don't get too hung up on the timings, because it's not like the new moon hits at 6:32 and then at 6:33 it's over. No. I would suggest that you look at this on the 19th, 20th and 21st. It's the 19th today while I'm filming this, and I've been feeling it all week. It's been... So first of all, we had an eclipse last month in June, and it was in Cancer as well. So you may be wondering, why have we got another new moon in Cancer? It's because the moon was at the beginning of Cancer back in June. I think it was at 0 degrees, and this one is at 28 degrees. So it's further along, and it's just finishing up its cycle in Cancer. 2 and 8 is 10. 10 reduces to 1 in numerology, and 1 is about taking action and being responsible and taking accountability. And Cancer is all about the domestic sphere of life. It's about the home, and it's about other people in the home, how you interact with those people. It's intimate relationships, intimate personal relationships, family relationships, friends with friends and co-workers, basically anything you can have a relationship with, people, places and things. And Cancer is a cardinal sign, so it's about taking responsibility and taking charge as well, and saying, okay, this is what I feel, and because of that I am going to take certain action. And that's what this new moon really urges a lot of us to do, to face our problems, to face our fears, especially in the domestic sphere of our lives, and to say, okay, I may be in pain now, but what can I do to change that? How can I tweak things in my life so that I am not in pain in future, that I can take care of myself and take care of other people? And I don't know about you, but I've always found this really difficult. I am 38, I'm gay, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and my idea of self-care for years was a bottle of gin, handful of pills, a cigarette, a joint, whatever. Anything that will change the way I feel, anything that will take me out of having to deal with my own feelings. And because of that, before I got into recovery, I always assumed that, oh, you know, I'm the addict, there must be something wrong with me. I'm too sensitive, which has always been confirmed by the people in my life. Thank you, family. You're too sensitive, snap out of it, stop being a weirdo. Or the best one was shut it, gay boy. Well, the German version of gay boy, which is Schwuchtel, I guess. So those have not been helpful. And because I always thought the problem was me, I said, okay, well, I am too sensitive, you know. I mean, I do have problems in relationships. Usually for me, especially with men, I last about the second sentence or the third sentence, and then I'm like, enough, I don't need to hear this. I was skating the other day. I was out, I have this electric skateboard. I can't skate. I have an electric one, I stand on it, I press go, and I go. It's the best. And I was cruising around, and this guy, he stops me and he asks me to talk to him, and I'm like, okay. So I stop, and he's like, oh, hello, I've seen your YouTube videos. I'm like, great, okay, nice to meet you. Second sentence was, you're obviously a beginner. And I was just like, really? Is this what you're telling me, that I suck? I don't see myself as a beginner, otherwise I wouldn't put myself on YouTube as an astrologer if I was just starting out and learning. And by the way, I do have a certificate and a diploma, and I've got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, so I am educated. So I didn't appreciate that. And instead of getting into it with him, my response was to say, okay, here come the insults. I closed my ears and I cruised off. And that has been the approach to a lot of my relationship difficulties. And the same thing, if you're in addiction and you can't handle something, it's like, okay, can't handle this, don't like the way I feel, I'll take something, I'll smoke something, I'll drink something to change the way I feel. Simple, right? Unfortunately, that doesn't work out so well in the long term. I had to realize that. Loads of people who practice that kind of lifestyle will realize that sooner or later, if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, it ends really badly, and that's without a joke. So because of that tendency of mine, I always thought, okay, I have to give other people the benefit of the doubt because there's something wrong with me. And that then has made me super codependent and someone who's just basically a doormat and who says, yes, okay, yes, I'll take that. Okay, I need to keep this person in my life because I love them. So, okay, give me the negative stuff, give me the abuse, I'll just take it. And you don't just have to live in one extreme or the other. So you can stand up for yourself and you can say, do you know what, I love you, but I really don't like this, which is something I still have to master. And what's the other one? Yeah, so you can either stand up for yourself, that's the middle, and be in relationships and have a genuine dialogue with someone who's willing to engage with you and is willing to change, and you're willing to change and be a decent person. The one extreme is to say, absolutely not, I don't want to hear anything. You said one bad thing to me, you're gone forever, which is where I am at the moment. And the other thing is, you can tell me anything that's on your mind. You can tell me how rubbish I am, how little you think of me, and I will take it, take it, take it. And I think for a lot of us, it's difficult to find that middle ground, and that's what we need to find. So this new moon gives you the opportunity for self-care. We had the eclipse a month ago, and that lasts 6 months. So the theme of caring for yourself and living your life in a way that's consistent and where you're able to have relationships and work through the negative stuff and look at yourself and work with other people and take care of them and love them and all that stuff. It's not that we're getting a second chance here. We're getting the opportunity to continue to take care of ourselves. But now with this new moon in July on the 20th, we're being confronted with the things that still challenge us and that still test us. And the new moon, like I said, is at 1 degree at, well, 28 degrees, which is 1, in Cancer. So how can I change my emotional landscape? How can I make things different? And Saturn is at 28 degrees in Capricorn and opposes that and says, well, I am the world and this is how we do things in the world, and here you go. Deal with it, whether you like it or not. And people like me don't like that. I don't like having to spell everything out. I don't like explaining to you why you upset me. I don't like telling you that the way you're speaking to me is hurtful and aggressive and unpleasant, and I don't like it, and I'd like you to stop, please. What's much easier for me is to say, no, bye. And unfortunately, we can't do that with family because they're family. Unless you want to be completely alone, which doesn't work either, because no man is an island, no woman is an island, no person is an island. We all need other people for our emotional well-being, right? You need to have contact with other human beings, otherwise you're just by yourself and it gets dull and miserable and boring. So with this, accept the fact that you're not perfect, that you also have things about you which may be unpleasant or aggressive or dishonest or inauthentic or whatever it may be, and that you don't always have the right tools to deal with all of those things. Sounds fun, right? Yeah. The good thing is that we've got Pluto and Jupiter next to Saturn. Oh, and by the way, they're all in retrograde. So the outer planets in retrograde, they retrograde for like 4 to 6 to 8 months. What in astrology I look at is the personal planets, so Mercury, Venus, Mars. When they go retrograde, it's really important because that happens for Mercury a couple of times a year, 3 times or 4 times a year, and for Venus it's like every other year. So that's important. But if we were going to look at the outer planets and their retrogrades all the time, we'd just be like, okay, still retrograde. We'd be constantly affected by it. As a whole, when things go retrograde, you have the opportunity and the possibility to reflect on those energies and to get a little bit of distance from them, so you can assess them and you can reflect upon them and you can say, okay, this is how I've worked in the past, or this is how I've done things in the past. How am I going to do things in future? So with Saturn in retrograde at 28 degrees in Capricorn, how do I assert myself in the world? How do I work with relationships in my life? How do I treat other people? How do I treat myself? How do I express my love? How do I let other people love me? And where does that not work? So that's where you can look at all these positive, I wish, all these things, and you can say, okay, I'm willing to change that. This isn't a behavior that works, which is the mature and the sensible approach to this energy, to actually engage and to say, do you know what? This has been a theme in my life. So for instance, with me, I don't have a lot of relationships in my life because it's not just the men, it's everybody. So sooner or later, a friend or a family member or someone is going to say something that I don't like, and I will shut down and remove myself from that situation. And the more you do that, the more alone you will end up. And if you have that tendency and you want to change it, then you can look at that and you can say, I react like this because of a place of fear, or the ego is telling me that I'm not good enough, and this person has just told me, oh, snap out of it, stop being a weirdo. And that, to me, confirms that I'm not good enough. So instead of blaming myself, I'm now going to blame that other person, demonize them, and move away from them. Makes sense, right? Because that's really what this is all about. All the anger and the fear and the frustration, it comes from a place of hurt and, yeah, a fear that lives inside of you, and the fundamental kind of concern that you are not good enough. Pluto is about transformation and change. It's death and rebirth. 23 degrees is 5, and in Capricorn, the sign of the worker, how can I transform this energy, these patterns of behavior within myself? How can I look at them? So it's not just that you're flogging yourself with a stick here, self-flagellation, okay, I'm so terrible, how can I continue being terrible? You're actually looking at this, not just to beat yourself up, but to say, these are these qualities that I have now outgrown, and I can become a bigger person. Because the good news is that we as people have the capacity for change and growth. So by looking at these negative things, if you want to change something, I am making this video on the 19th. If you haven't picked it up by now, for me, I'm feeling pretty irritated and frustrated. I, right now, am not willing to change these things about me because I don't want any relationships in my life. I'm happy. More alone, please. Don't be like me, have relationships. Be a sensible grown-up. And say, okay, this is my stuff. I want to liberate myself from that so I can have better relationships. I want to change this behavior in myself so that I don't have to be alone, or that I don't have to feel like I'm in the wrong, that I can have constructive relationships with people, build something. Because the thing is, if you meet someone for the first time, you don't know them yet. You need to get to know each other. You need to see the good in the other person, and sooner or later someone will say something you don't like. That doesn't mean they're a bad person, you're a bad person. It's just a behavior that one of you or both of you do not like. And people aren't mind readers. People are intuitive and may feel the way you react and sense certain things, but they're not going to be able to read every hang up you've got. And if they say something totally innocuously and you just go off, then it's part of getting to know each other to make the effort to say, okay, they didn't like that, so because it goes both ways, right? So the one person who said the thing that the other one didn't like says, okay, They may be oversensitive, they may not be oversensitive. I may have been wrong, or I may have not been wrong. I like the person enough to be willing to change and not say that kind of thing again, or not to behave that way again, in an attempt to make this relationship work. The other person who's offended doesn't have to say, bye, you no longer exist. They can say, okay, I may be too sensitive, maybe they meant it or they didn't mean it. Best way to find out is to ask them and to say, I didn't like that, what did you mean by that? And then you work through it and you can have a relationship. Or if you don't work through it and someone is bigoted or just unpleasant for the sake of it, then you can say, do you know what, this isn't going to work for me, but at least I made the effort to get to know you, and then you can go your separate ways. And Pluto in retrograde at 23 degrees in Capricorn gives you the ability to set yourself free and to make the effort. We also have Jupiter, the lucky planet, at 21 degrees in Capricorn. They all sit next to each other. So 21 degrees Jupiter, 23 Pluto, 28 Saturn. So all the big, heavy energy is sitting there together in the worker sign of Capricorn. So it's not fun and games. We're not in, the IKEA ball place having a good time. This is about working with yourself and making your inner world more palatable to yourself, so you can take care of yourself more easily. Because once you pluck some of these negative things out, then you don't have to deal with them again in future. It makes your life easier. So if you're overly sensitive, you will be able to at least accept that and see it and say, okay, I've done the work on the 20th of July 2020. I don't have to constantly have that ball and chain around my leg for the rest of my life. I've looked at it, I've accepted it, I've worked on it, and I've let it go. Jupiter is the lucky planet. 2 and 1 is 3. 3 is communication, new beginnings. And that's really nice because you can communicate. So if you don't have the patience, like I don't have the patience, and that's what this is about, learning patience and tolerance and having the willingness to make things better with other people and to explain yourself and to give people that benefit of the doubt and to give them the energy to say, okay, you really did get on my nerves, but I care about this enough to give you another chance, etc. The lucky planet is really likely to give you that energy and the willingness to do that, because at 3 degrees, you want to communicate, you want to be understood, and you want to have a fresh start within yourself. I am not this person, I can be bigger than this, I can take the high road. I don't have to take every little thing so seriously. Or just because I don't like someone's long hair, for example, I don't have to criticize it to their face. It's not my role. Maybe I don't have to do that in future. So Jupiter really offers you the good luck and the free of charge energy to make your relationships better, and that includes the relationship with yourself, because you're going to like yourself more when you sort this out. When you sort out the things about yourself that you do not like, you're lighter and you're happier with yourself, and it's like, okay, I used to behave like that, I don't anymore, and I really like that. Hooray, well done me. Pallas Athena is at 19 degrees in Capricorn. So the warrior goddess is down there as well. 1 and 9 is 10, so we've got another 1 in numerology. Take the initiative. But to be honest, all of this is about you taking charge. No one's going to do this work for you, is what the planets are saying. The new moon, so the sun and the moon sitting together, the moon being pitch black, that's at 28 degrees, which is 1. You are in charge. Saturn is at 28 degrees, 2 and 8 is 1. You're in charge. Pluto at 5, you're in charge of your freedom. 3, you make the new beginning, you communicate, you articulate. And Pallas Athena, you're the warrior. You decide whether you work on this. And I like this energy a lot because Pallas Athena is like the female version of Mars. She's like a what are they called? Valkyries? In Wagner, you know, those women with the helmets and the horns and the yeah. They that kind of warrior goddess. And that energy is really accessible to someone like me, who likes taking action from that kind of place, rather than Mars, which is like, I bulldoze, I do, and it's much more sensitive and it comes from a more emotional place. Like, for instance, I don't make decisions based on my thoughts, base them on my feelings a lot of the time. So if you're tapped into your feelings, and the new moon in Cancer is certainly going to raise the emotional high tide for you, then having that Pallas Athena energy, I can work my way through this huge tide of feelings. I can't, because Pallas Athena is used to working with your feelings and is able to focus them and help you to channel it into a constructive way. And that's what you need, because you won't get overwhelmed. So if you are someone who's like, oh, I can't speak to this person and tell them how I really feel because I'll get overwhelmed, I'll either get angry and start yelling, or I'll start crying and everything's going to be, I just don't want to do it and I will avoid it. Trust the energy of these outer planets making this possible for you, and Pallas Athena giving you the focus and the kind of levity to have a reasonable discussion with yourself and other people. And a discussion with yourself, what I mean by that is, if you're drinking a bottle of gin a day, you may want to, it's not about having a discussion and being reasonable. It's having the grace of the universe and a spiritual connection that says, do you know what? You're killing yourself with this. It's not going to go well in the long term. Please have the willingness to look at yourself and to have a word with yourself and say, I love you too much to watch you kill yourself with alcohol. And I'm going to help you stop that behavior, and I'm going to help you change that. And to a reasonable person who doesn't suffer with addiction, that may sound really simple and it makes sense, but the whole point of addiction is that you're not, for me anyway, I'm not willing to face the truth about me. I don't like looking at me and saying, oh, okay, that's a character defect, I'm going to have to work with that. And that's why in the recovery programs, a lot of people fall down on step 4, which is taking a personal inventory of the self and looking at parts of you that are self-seeking and based on selfishness and fear. None of us like to do that, right? We don't. We prefer going to Disneyland and watching Game of Thrones. It's much easier. So we've got this difficult energy anyway. We might as well learn from it. We may as well use it to our advantage. And if things are going to feel this way anyway, it would behoove us, oh, that's a good word, it may benefit all of us to make use of it, because for instance, I'm feeling this already, so I might as well engage with it, right? And the new moon gives a lot of other kind of energy because it forms aspect patterns with other planets in the chart, not just with Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter and Pallas Athena, although that's enough. It also forms a semi-square, which means it's 45 degrees away from Venus, the planet of love, beauty and creativity, at 15 degrees in Gemini. So Venus is saying you've got the opportunity to really change your everyday life and the way your relationships are by communicating. So Venus is saying, please be willing to look at yourself and other people, because this is a once in a lifetime chance and part of the 6 months process to heal yourself, your relationships with other people, your relationship with yourself, and the way you engage with the process of life. So looking at that, it probably isn't the best idea to say, do you know what? I have this opportunity, but I'm really unwilling to change. I don't care if I have any relationships. That's not the most constructive way of going about this, obviously. What is supported by the astrology is saying, get over yourself temporarily, in the sense that you have the emotional presence of mind to have difficult relationships that you may not like, but that are really useful in healing you and others. And Carrie Fisher said something really interesting and useful. She said, when I went to my first meeting, I really didn't like it, and anyway, I can't remember the exact quote, but she didn't like it, and someone there told her that she doesn't have to only do things that she likes. She can also do things that she doesn't like. And to me, that was an epiphany. I mean, I would never do anything that I didn't like. Why would I? But by doing things you don't like, sometimes they have positive outcomes, they help you, they heal you, And if you're someone who struggles with that as well, do something you don't like today that is constructive for a long-term positive change. So this is the opposite of instant gratification. I feel bad, gin, instant gratification. I feel bad, I'm going to have a conversation that is going to improve things in the long term. That's the opposite, and that's what this new moon is. So I don't think if I mentioned the mechanics of the new moon. When the sun and the moon sit together like this, it pulls loads of energy in and it recharges itself for the next cycle. So you've got loads of Cancer energy, and that's why it's high tide emotionally, because there's just so much feeling there. And we had the eclipse last month, so it feeds into the general theme of this is the year where you're supposed to learn what it is you like, how you can take care of yourself, and how you live your best life possible. Because the whole lockdown and the way this year has gone, everything's come to a halt, or it did in April. Things came to a halt. Here in Britain, we were in lockdown for 3 months. Things are opening up. The gyms are opening up next week. But everyone had to kind of sit home and reflect a little bit, even if you just spent the whole time, watching TV or whatever. You were forced to spend more time by yourself, to spend more time with you. And that's what I think 2020 on a spiritual, astrological level is all about. It's getting to know ourselves better and having that information and using it in the future to make our lives better. So for instance, I like, and I've always liked since I've lived here in Glastonbury, going to a city nearby called Bath. It's about 50 minutes north of here, and in Bath they've got a spa. So they've got like the pool on the top level, and then they've got a steam room, and they've got a pool downstairs. I've always liked swimming, and I've always gone there, and I always had these little days out for myself. So I'd go to Bath, I'd go to the spa like once every couple of months, and I'd go to the cinema, and I'd go to Nando's to have some chicken, because I like all those things, right? And it's only till the lockdown that I really realized that I like going to spas, I like going to the movies, and I like eating out once in a while, because I wasn't able to do those. So I actually was able to see those things in a list of things I like to do, because I can't see them. Oh, I miss the spa, therefore I must like the spa. You see, sometimes that's as dumb as I am, in the sense that, and I'm not putting myself down, that's as dumb as I used to be maybe in the past, but things have had to be spelled out to me really clearly and explained over and over and over again for me to actually get it. Okay, so you wouldn't expect a 38-year-old person to not know what they like. But I bet if you're watching this video, if you're 15 or 60, I bet that you don't know all the things you like and all the things you don't like. And it's really important to know that, so you can fill your life with things you like. I mean, it's not rocket science, but for some reason, and I think it's the ego trying to prevent us from being happy and trying to sabotage us, makes it really difficult to grasp those things and to get them. I remember when I was in therapy a couple of years ago, sometimes the therapist would say something really insightful that really answered my question, and I noticed that this mental fog would descend and her words would be covered in fog. It's almost like my mind didn't want to hear it. It's almost like my mind didn't want to absorb it, because I was still too invested in my problem and what I got out of the problem, instead of looking at the solution and saying, I want to get better, because I didn't want to get better. And on some levels, like I mentioned in this video, there are some things that I still don't want to fix. Like, I don't want to improve my relationships, because I get a lot out of being alone. And I get a lot out of being able to say, oh, poor me, I've been single for so long, aren't I a sad little hermit? Because I get a payoff from that, you see. I can feel sorry for myself. I can see, goodness, aren't I resilient, living life all by myself. So I prefer the payoff to resolving the issue and actually having relationships. Why should I? So it depends on where you are, you see. If you are still enjoying the payoff, and I have to say that sooner or later, those payoffs fall away. Same with the booze, Like, if you can't feel your feelings and you drink a bottle of alcohol, yes, the payoff is that you don't have to feel anything, but your liver is going to be screwed in 6 months. All of these things come with a cost. We do live on planet duality, so cause and effect. If you don't have relationships, surprise, surprise, sooner or later you'll get lonely. Okay, let's see, what else? We have a square between the new moon and the midheaven in Libra at 23 degrees. That's almost like Jupiter in the sense that Libra, if you look at the glyph of Libra, it's a bridge with a bump in it, okay? So you're able to overcome any obstacles. It's an air sign, it's also a cardinal sign. And it's about being able to bridge the gap, being able to keep the faith until you're able to get to the other side, to your destination, without giving into fear and doubt and negativity and pessimism. 23 degrees is 5, again, freedom in relationships by using the element of air, communication, thinking, analyzing, making sense of things, being rational, reasonable, imagine that one. And using all of that to improve your relationships. So Libra gives you that levity and says, yeah, I don't need to go into old patterns. I can grow. I can become a bigger person. I don't have to just enjoy these payoffs. I can explore uncharted territories and, for example, try new relationships and be willing to have relationships, because I think and I feel, and on some level we all feel what's right and wrong, right? We all know on some level that having a loving relationship with the self and other people is better than changing your feelings through casual sex with a bunch of strangers. We all know that deep down. We don't want to face that truth because it's often difficult and the alternatives are easy. So if you use that Libra energy, you're able to take the road less traveled, the high road, the thing that's difficult, for long-term positive change rather than just falling back into old behavior patterns. We have the new moon forming a quincunx with the south node at 27 degrees in Sagittarius. 2 and 7 is 9, 9 is spirituality and completion, and Sagittarius is the centaur galloping around in the high realms. So you have this higher self connection. Your inner light is kind of shining quite brightly, and you realize that you can shine the light onto some dark places and you can explore people, places and things and personality traits and ways of behaving and being that you haven't tried out in the past. That's why when you get into 12-step recovery programs, they often say fake it till you make it. Because people who are in addiction, we have these really ingrained negative ways of thinking, and you have to kind of blag it a little bit to create these new neural pathways in your brain that actually are positive to get out of those negative spaces, because you have no context for positivity, or I didn't when you first get in there, because it's like, what? God, who cares? Like, what does God care if I drink or not? Like, who's God? And by being open to the idea that potentially there could be, maybe, something possibly out there that is bigger than you, you suspend disbelief in a sense and you give yourself a chance to start new ways of thinking. But if you're immediately like, nah, whatever, then you don't give yourself that chance. And the south node at 27 degrees in Sag gives you that opportunity. So we're being given loads and loads and loads of opportunities. I'm sorry, I'm just stuttering because I'm thinking I might have to make an apology, which I don't want to do because I don't think I'm wrong. I have to meditate on that one. But we're being given the opportunity to feel and think and believe that there could be something better out there and that we can change. Love that. Love change. We have a Sesqui square between the new moon and Ceres, which is the cornucopia of wealth and abundance. That's also 12 degrees. 1 and 2 is 3, communication, new beginnings, in Pisces. So it's your higher self that's really alive in you, and that's observing all of this, and that's saying, yes, I know you're going through emotions, but I'm holding your hand through this. You can do this. You can make things better. If you do, there's the promise of more love, more happiness in your domestic life, more joy in your personal romantic relationships, better understanding with people you love, less conflict, more joy, yay, all of that, but it requires a little bit of work. Okay, so that's the chart in the sense of the new moon and the relationships it forms. I'm just checking that I haven't missed anything here. Yeah, so that's how the new moon connects with other things, but I'm being told to keep talking because there are other things happening in the chart, which, for instance, the new moon forms a square with the midheaven, right? But then you can see, oh, yes, oh my goodness, I'm a little bit all over the place today. I'm going to put the chart up next to me, and you can see that the midheaven then forms another square with the outer planets Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn. So they are also saying, reflect on the relationships you've had in the past where you haven't been free, where there could be more space for freedom and a positive relationship. This is how you've worked in the past. How can you take responsibility, accountability of who you are? Determined to be better, because we all make mistakes, right? We're all human beings, none of us are perfect. And to say, I'm not perfect, and I want to have better relationships with myself and other people, and I'm just going to make baby steps and try new things. Are all of those new behaviors going to work? No. Are some of them going to work? Yeah. And it's about then focusing on the positives and implementing those in your life and doing more of the same. And you've got this opportunity here on the 19th, 20th and 21st of July, but you still got 5 months of a Cancer eclipse energy that's all about how am I going to make relationships better. So 2020 for a lot of people has been really tough anyway. So you might as well dig around in this tough, difficult energy and make something of it, because you have to deal with it anyway. We're all having to face this. We're all having to work with this. So we might as well benefit from it in the long term rather than give in to despair and fix ourselves with instant gratification. And that's another thing Carrie Fisher said, instant gratification takes too long. It does. It's like, no, I wanted to feel better before I had the negative feeling. How dare you? I didn't even want to feel this to begin with. The midheaven forms a lot of relationships. So it's almost like, do you see the big red square in the chart? It's got one square between the sun and the moon and the midheaven in Libra, then Libra and all those outer planets, and then the outer planets and Chiron, Mars, and Black Moon Lilith at the bottom of the chart here near the IC, and then the final square, which would make this a square, when two planets are 90 degrees away from each other, the red line is called a square, okay? But what I'm talking about is we've got 1, 2, 3 squares. If we had another one, we would have a giant big red square in the chart, and that's called a grand cross. And a grand cross is an area of real friction. It doesn't complete. What it does, it connects the outer planets with those ego planets, Chiron, Black Moon, Lilith, and Mars. And what that means is if you just bulldoze your way through this and you say, I am never wrong, all these people who can't have relationships with me, for example, are all idiots and it's all their fault. I'm perfect. There's nothing about this that's, I haven't done anything wrong here. Then you're not using the energy to your advantage and you're letting an opportunity pass you by. Chiron and Black Moon Lilith, they want you to puff yourself up and say, what an insult. I don't have to look at myself. I don't even have to consider doing a step forward because I'm perfect. Then you're really feeding into the ego and you're not going to change because that just cements you as right, even if you're wrong, and nothing ever alters, okay? If you do work with it, Mars is at 12 degrees in Aries, new beginnings, communication, you are able to make a fresh start and really devote yourself to it and heal past negative patterns and fears that are in you right now. Because I'm not saying that if you decide to make things better between you and yourself and another person or a thing or a place, it's not going to all feel hunky-dory. You have to actually have the conversation and reach some resolution to make a positive change. So don't expect to just feel glorious doing this. It may be challenging, but the results are really worth it. They're really worth doing. We have Venus connecting with the part of fortune. It opposes it. That's at 20 degrees in Sag. So it's not about running away and just saying, oh, I can't talk to anyone today. I have to meditate all day long. You may have, that's not the answer anyway, because it's about wanting to a relationship, engaging with the true self and the things that may not always be positive. Sometimes we have to face things in life that are negative, and we have to do something about them so we can transform them into positives. And just saying, oh, please stop speaking. I need to go meditate for 12 hours. I can't possibly engage with you right now. That's not helpful to that relationship. It's not even helpful to the relationship with yourself, because if you're meditating for 12 hours, knowing that you just fobbed someone off, then you're going to be sitting there thinking about that or something else that really is not on point. So devote yourself to the things that demand your attention, in the sense that you feel, if I take control of this and if I engage with it, I will affect positive change. If someone is just criticizing you or yelling at you for no reason, then you don't have to take that on board, because you know that there's no positive outcome. It's the things that could potentially change and be different in your life. Personal patterns, actual relationships, not just, do you see the difference? It's something that has the potential to be good and a fixture in your life. Don't devote yourself to rubbish that's going to be bad anyway. And how do you know the difference? You know the difference if someone is completely unwilling to change, and you know that it's never going to be a two-way street. If you're saying, okay, maybe, like I said before, I could be wrong, they could be wrong. If that other person does take that stance of, I am the Queen of Sheba and I never utter a word that is incorrect, then forget it, because it's never going to change. And if you're like that, then have another look and become willing to possibly look at yourself on this day. It's really going to open things up and you'll find it much easier to do. Uranus connects with Mercury. Mercury is 8 degrees in Cancer. That makes you, it allows you to communicate about the emotional side of life. A lot of people struggle with that. Some people just can't talk about their feelings. I remember I was talking to some guy a while ago and I said something and he looked at me and he said, are we talking about our feelings, are we? And spoiler, well, it's not a spoiler alert, but you can imagine what I did. I said, thank you very much, that's enough, and I left. Because if I can't even talk about how I feel, then why would you ask me how I am? That's asking me how I feel. Like, if you genuinely want to know how I am, and I say, fine, or I say, I'm having the worst day ever, I'm talking about my feelings. So I was just like, forget it. If you're going to talk to me like that. So I still have a lot of work to do in terms of intolerance of things like that. But Mercury at 8 degrees in Cancer gives you the ability to have time and space for other people's feelings as well as your own. So it makes having patience easier. It makes it easier for you to articulate things that are difficult for you. And Uranus at 10 degrees in Taurus means that you don't know how miraculous and unexpected and amazing this result can possibly be. You don't know how wonderful that relationship is going to be because you've never tried the new behavior yet. That's still outstanding, and the astrology and spirit is urging you to practice that and take it on board. And you're not you don't know what's going to happen if you change certain ways of being with other people or yourself. You have to actually do it to see the outcome. So don't be surprised if this effort that you make today has a really unexpectedly wonderful, miraculous outcome that will serve you into the future. And then you'll look back on this and you'll be like, okay, I felt a bit of discomfort on the 19th, 20th and 21st, but it was worth it because look at this now. I did the work and now I have this wonderful relationship with my children or my partner or whoever it may be. So that's it, I think. Let's just have a look. Yep. Those are the key things about this new moon in Cancer on the 20th of July. I hope you have a wonderful time. I hope you're able to engage with this energy in a constructive, positive way, and that you're open to new things and new ways of being, and that you have that faith in your heart that life can be wonderful. That's what this gives you. So that's really, I mean, as far as energy goes, that's not bad, right? Could be worse. So I hope you have a really lovely new moon here. If you would like a personal reading with me, then please, I'm just laughing because it's just like, I don't know if I've been, yeah. I didn't want to make this video because I don't like talking about this stuff. It bothers me. I like to think that I've got it all together and that I've come a long way and that I get a little bit of a break and I don't have to constantly work on myself, but no. We do get these opportunities, so we do have to work on ourselves. If you would like a personal reading with me, what I do is I use astrology, tarot, numerology, as well as my intuition in my readings. By having your birth chart in front of me, which I draw up by using your place of birth, date of birth, and time of birth. If you don't have the time of birth, then order a rectification on my website. That's a process where I work out your time of birth. Once I have that, then I've got your chart in front of me, and by looking at that, I can see your life purpose, your strengths and weaknesses, what your vocational aptitudes are, so talents when it comes to work and love and relationships and moving and anything that's on your mind. Just get in touch for a personal reading if you would like me to look at those. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, please hit the subscribe button, share it online, and that's it. Have a wonderful time during this new moon. I hope you make the most of it. I hope your life changes as a result, and I'll speak to you soon.